The first week in September is done, and it has been glorious weather. Very much been taking stock, not in the sense of considering how we've been getting on, but in terms of more harvesting. And most of this week is about that. But we do need to take stock. How have we done following through veg in one bed? Well, August was a really tough month. We were away quite a lot. And as a result of that, I didn't get the seeds planted when I needed to. I haven't been around to water them, so things like the carrots haven't germinated particularly well. And I think we haven't done well over August in terms of keeping up with the book, but we have done well in terms of harvest, and this week is no exception. So I hope you enjoy this video and stick around to find out what happens to our pumpkin.
Man versus slug.
I was away for another week, and now the sun has arrived, and so have the tomatoes. I think it's time to start picking. I'm going to pick some of the slightly orange ones in line with what one of my viewers put in the comments. Let them ripen in the house. We've done 5 or so minutes of picking tomatoes, and the bowl I brought out is absolutely full. And I've just been focusing on the plum tomatoes we've been growing. Those were the determinate, or supposedly determinate type. The other indeterminates, which I think were Gardener's Delight, were really, really nice when we got the first batch. So I'm going to pick those separately. We'll probably have the Gardener's Delight just as tomatoes to eat, and the plum tomatoes will either turn into soup or potentially jar them up to use in sauces throughout this winter. There we go, 2 kilograms from the determinate tomatoes. So I've harvested most of the rest of the green tomatoes. This is on a vine, so we've decided that definitely that's going to increase the value of our harvest. Unfortunately, a lot of the indeterminate tomatoes split. Some went mouldy, so we didn't even bother bringing those in. So they'll need a bit of inspection. And I also harvested a whole load more of the determinate tomatoes, which I had missed in my first pass, partly because the bowl was too full. So there we go, we've got 1.5 kilograms more tomatoes, so that's a total of 3.5 kilograms. And then finally we harvested another cucumber. Cucumber plant itself is looking a little bit sad. Cucumber's looking a little bit sad too. I think we really needed to get one of those Victorian cucumber straighteners that we saw right near the beginning of Man vs Slug. I nearly forgot that yesterday we also picked a load of our tumbling toms, the little cherry tomatoes. It's 375 grams of them. With the fantastic harvest of tomatoes that we've had this weekend, combined with the 1.8 kilograms we got last weekend, we are up at 5.5 to 6 kilograms of tomatoes in total. Now, putting a value on tomatoes is really hard because they go from the very cheap to the sort of premium organic vine ripened tomatoes, which can be almost 10 pounds a kilogram. So if we take some kind of average, sort of say down at 5, I reckon we've had about 30 pounds worth of tomatoes. And we've had this cucumber, which I don't think you're going to get a high value for in the shops. The end of the week, and I'm meant to be recording intro and exit videos for editing, but I harvested a few more tomatoes. Yep, we got another 1.5 kilograms of plum tomatoes, the determinate type, and another kilogram or so of the salad tomatoes, the indeterminate variety we've been growing. It's lovely vine. I picked this with a couple of green ones left because well, the one at the top here is split. I think what I've learned from comments and from experience now is that these salad ones are best picked when they're just slightly orange and still quite firm, because they seem to split pretty easily, whereas the plum tomatoes can be left to go a bit redder because they hold their skin together much better. And we go from the joy of the tomatoes to the disappointment and shock of the pumpkin. I have no idea what's happened, but maybe it wasn't pollinated after all, but it was growing. I have no idea. It's just started decaying, going mouldy. Really, really disappointing. Is there hope yet? Is that pumpkin going to grow 14 foot in the air? Another one up there. So sad, sad times. We don't look like we are getting a pumpkin this year again. I would really like to hear your thoughts on how do you make pumpkins, produce pumpkins. I just don't seem to be able to do it. What I do seem to be able to do is generate tomatoes by the millions. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well on that. What do you do when you get a glut of tomatoes? We have been making soup. We're currently making some sauce to go with the bolognese. But what do you do with all these tomatoes? Is there a good way to preserve them? Tell me what you do with yours. And join us again next week as we try and press on, and hopefully we'll get back on track with Veg in One Bed.